Put it in sport mode. Let's go. There we go. That's dope. I love that. When I love the throttle, it gives this nice little bubble, burble type of a sound that makes people turn their heads because they're like, whoa, that car sounds like that? That car makes that sound? Yeah, it does. And that's why I love driving my BMW X5M. It's a sleeper, but it will beat the out of a typical performance car. Taking off from the parking garage. And then my 2010 BMW X5M. Really unique car. A unique vehicle, I guess you can say. Not really a car. Not a big fan of this parking garage. Oh, that's pretty. It's a nice looking Audi. I like that. I like those Audis with the hatchback style, that slope back style. I guess they call them, I don't really know what they call them. I thought they would call them like hatchback, fastback styles. Something like that, but I'm not really sure, so. But they're dope. This is funny. Going through a parking garage in this vehicle, even though this is a really tight parking garage, you kind of feel like you want to floor it because the car has such tight handling and the suspension is tight. The steering wheel is thick. Feels really good in your hands. It really encourages you, especially with the turning radius of it, to just go into a corner hard, really push it, try to see what all you can get from it. You know, it's inspiring in that sense. I really appreciate the car in that regard. Let me go down here this way. Take it to the bottom. Get this key sensor here. Oh, what's this telling me? I can use that one? Okay, cool, we're good. We're good. Jesus.
Please scan your ticket.
There we go. Yeah, so this car, it's a special vehicle to me because this is like my fourth vehicle that I bought, and it's by far my favorite. I have in my hand, I have the steering wheel of a 555 horsepower SUV. BMW decided that it would be a good idea to put 555 horsepower into an SUV, give it xDrive, and lower it a little bit, and see what the hell happens. And it's amazing. It's an amazing experience. From beginning to end, it's something that's really unique to the platform, to the SUV platform. You have things like the Porsche Cayenne Turbo S, that's out now. I mean, but I think this was kind of one of the first ones. I know the SRT came out in the beginning too, but the SRT really wasn't, you couldn't track that thing. I mean, that thing is still really big. You know, it's still very much a massively huge thing back then when Jeep was first doing it. Plus, this has more horsepower than that. V8, twin turbo, 555 horsepower. I forgot the torque numbers, they're 500 something. But, I mean, from a daily driving standpoint, and then you can daily drive this. From a daily driving standpoint, this is just a beast. It's something that many people don't even know exists. Like, that's the crazy thing. I feel like that makes this car one of the best sleeper vehicles you can get in the market. They're selling this car I got for around $33,000, give or take a few $1,000s there. But that was a steal for this because it only had 53,000 miles on it. It was a 2010. I think the car was physically built in 2009, and it must have been one of the first ones they built because this one doesn't have Bluetooth audio. This one was just a good low mileage vehicle for the time I got it in 2000, and I think it was 16. Maybe 16, 17-ish. I don't recall exactly when I got it, but it was just a good low mileage X5M. I didn't even want an X5. If it wasn't for my wife, I probably would have never, ever bought this. Like, that serious. she wanted an X5M when we were looking for her vehicle, whether she wanted to get like a Ford Explorer and X5. I know, it's just kind of like weird. She wanted an X5, she didn't want the M. She thought that the BMW was exactly what she was looking for, and you know, she took me to the BMW dealership, so we went and we looked at it, and it was really nice, man. It surprised me how nice it was on the inside. I think it was a pre-owned. It may have been like a 2013 version of the X5, and it had like, it was decked out with all kinds of luxury options. I mean, it was super sweet. And I was driving a Dodge Charger, a 2012 Dodge Charger at the time. So for me, that vehicle was really nice because it was the Max edition. They called it the, I think they called it the RT Max. I think that's the name of the spec of the car. And basically it had everything that you could get in a Dodge Charger. You know, you could get like heated seats. They didn't have cool seats at the time. That was back a little bit before that, as far as the Dodge stuff goes. You had the heated and cooled cup holders, which was pretty cool, I guess. That's something different, you know. But you know, this car, it was just a whim, and I decided to go check it out because I had heard about them producing these, and I was never actually in one. I never test drove one. Even when we went to the BMW dealership, we never actually test drove the X5. All we did was sit in it and say, okay, this is really nice, but it was overpriced, and it was overpriced, and these things depreciate like crazy. But basically, what ended up happening was I did some more research because I wanted an SUV. I needed an SUV first with my family. It was a real struggle to get a stroller in the back of the Dodge Charger. It wasn't gonna fit. And then when we got the double stroller, it was a wrap. It really wasn't gonna work. The car was huge, but the trunk space it didn't have what I needed in order for me to really get by with what I wanted on the that's from a family perspective. But I think that this car hits everything that I could possibly want out of a vehicle out the park. And there's a regular X5 right there. It looks really pedestrian. Nice seats though. I think that's a freaking SRT Dodge Durango behind me. Yeah, that looks pretty menacing too. But basically, like, I wanted a really fast SUV that had great performance, and I was looking at the Cayennes, but they cost way too much. I mean, like, way too much for what they were. And I wasn't gonna get a first gen because I didn't like the way those looked, and I didn't want to get a like a GTS version because they just seemed kind of like, you know, really, other than the GTS version and the turbo versions, it didn't look that good. They looked like soccer mom cars. Who wants to get a soccer mom car? Not me. Not a young guy that, you know, wants to still kind of have something cool to drive, right? There was a time when the Charger was cool. It had red interior and everything like that, but I kind of grew out of that. Plus, they introduced this new model, which looked a lot more menacing at the time. So it just looked a lot more, you know, masculine, I guess. And the one I had just looked old. It just made it look immediately old. But when I came across the X5M, the first one I drove, I went to this used car dealership. I've never been to these car dealerships where it's like, you know, like a trailer and they just have a bunch of cars outside of it, right? So I'll pull up, and next to the X5M is a Dodge, not a Dodge, but a Jeep SRT. And it was priced at like, you know, $15,000 higher. And it was like, okay, you know, it was funny. I think it was 2 years older than the BMW or whatnot. But I went ahead and I drove the X5M test drive, right? And as I'm driving it, I'm like, this doesn't really feel, it wasn't really blowing my mind, right? And I brought it back to the dealership, and I said, and the guy asked me, he said, what did you think about it? What did you think about the vehicle? I said, in all honesty, I was kind of wanting more. I was expecting more from it. It just didn't feel like what I thought it would be. You know, this didn't feel like 555 horsepower. It felt kind of like, you know, below 400 range. Compared to my Charger, it pretty much felt like that. It didn't, torque-wise and everything like that, it didn't really blow my mind. which was disappointing because I was really expecting to be blown away by something that was supposed to have 200 more horsepower. He said, you know, you didn't have it in M mode. I said, what? He's like, yeah, you got to put it in M mode. So we went back to figure out how to put it in M mode. Well, it's called M mode, but at the time he called it sport mode. So we go and we figure out how to put it in M mode. He said, hey man, go and test drive it again. You know, he really wanted to move it. It was a very unique vehicle because it did ride a lot harsher than like a typical SUV. It didn't have the soft ride that you would expect from like most SUVs, especially of this size. So I put it in M mode, I take it for a drive, I go down 45, and man, I'm just smiling because this thing, the exhaust opens up, the throttle response is so sharp, the power is there, it's there. And I was really close to buying that car, but I found one that had lower mileage, this one actually, and it was not too far away from my job, so I went ahead and test drove this one, and I went ahead and bought this one. They gave me the price that I wanted, and I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Lower mileage on a vehicle that I read that, you know, you always fear with BMWs you're going to pay a lot of money in service charges or just maintenance altogether, right? So when I got the car, I wanted to make sure I got one that had a pretty well taken care of history and, you know, overall just a good condition. When I went and bought this, it took me about a week to pull up the manual because it didn't come with one, and I was looking at the different settings in the transmission, and one setting said sports mode, and I said, wait, that's different from M mode. And sure enough, the whole time I had test drove the car and I had the car for a week, I didn't even know anything about sport mode. I didn't know what the MS stood for. I thought that was like manual shift, right? Where it was just gonna let you, you know, only use the pedals or only use the up and the down on the shifter. But no, it actually puts it in sport mode. So to really get the power out of the vehicle, you put it in M mode and then you put it into sport mode, and it's just fucking insane. Like, let's just cut to the chase. It's insane. It made me do really, really stupid things in the vehicle. The first 2 weeks I had it, I did something one day. I remember I was trying to pass like 7 people before I got to like an intersection, and I did it. I passed them, but man, I'm telling you, like, it was crazy because, like, what's going on up here? I passed them, but it was crazy because so yeah, this car makes you do some stupid things like flooring it and passing people when you maybe think you can't in most cars, but in this car you can. 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds is what I've been seeing. I can attest it's pretty damn fast. From 0 to 60, from 0 to whatever you want to go to, and it's just the power. When you have it in sport mode and it's M mode too, it's the torque and the power is so present. It really just, it stays in that power band. It stays in that sweet spot. I think that one of the cool things about the vehicle is that it's so unassuming though. Even though it looks a little different than an X5, this one doesn't have like spoilers or like any kind of body modification that would give it away as being like something that has almost 600 horsepower. It definitely is a little bit more subtle than like say like an SRT or even some of the other M packages that BMW has that may have more of the dressing on it. This one's just more chill, and I like that. I appreciate that because it's unassuming. You know, cops won't look at you and say, oh, you're probably gonna speed off heavy foot and etc. So it's really cool to just be low key. Plus it's a BMW, and you know, just having a BMW is nice. But anybody who knows what the car is gonna appreciate the car. I remember the first day that I was driving at home at nighttime, and I didn't actually know how to put gas in the car because I didn't know how to open the fuel tank. And nobody told me, and at that time it was like a fuel shortage too, so it was like a speck of gas in the car, and I didn't have enough to actually get home. So as I'm driving and I pull over to the gas station, this dude pulls up next to me in the stall next to me, and he goes, hey, oh man, that's a nice X5M you got there. I used to have one. And I'm sitting there like trying to figure out how to open the gas tank, and he's trying to have a conversation with me, and I'm like, yeah dude, I hear you, but if I can't get this damn gas tank open, I can't get home. So I was just, it's all about it. But that was almost like an immediate recognition of what the car was within less than an hour of me owning the vehicle, right? Like, that let me know that car people know what it is. But a lot of people who aren't car people, who aren't really into the BMW M series of vehicles, they don't know what this is. They don't understand how big of a deal a vehicle like this can be, and how fast something like this can be. Because they look at it and they say, it's an SUV, how fast can it be? I mean, it's just a big old hunk of metal. And I think the other part about this car too that's really unassuming is that it's a V8, but it doesn't really sound like a typical rumbling V8, right? When you have this car in efficiency mode, which is the normal mode, it doesn't really make a sound at all. It's really quiet, and it's really disappointing because, when I would floor my Charger, it would sound like, damn, this thing has got power, right? It would just start blaring. But in the regular efficiency mode, you don't really get that. When you put this in sport mode with the M mode enabled as well, you really get an amazing throttle sound coming out of the exhaust. It sounds really good. You don't get it at idle, but you get it when it's under throttle. When it's wide open throttle, you really get it, because you get this when it changes gears, you get this burpling kind of a sound that is really rewarding, and it really makes you feel like, yeah, I'm flying down the road in something that's really special. And that's what this car is. This car is just really special. It's extremely special. I don't think I'm gonna have enough runway to actually do what I'm trying to do with the vehicle, but it's definitely something I want to try to capture on maybe like a back road. And this is a great back road vehicle. I took this up to the mountains too not too long ago, and it's amazing how well it takes the curves in the mountains, how planted it feels. There's no body roll really. You don't really feel it in an SUV, which is insane. Going over potholes, it sucks. Any like type of a bumpy road, it does suck. It is not a very smooth, luxurious ride in that sense, but the car does feel well built. You don't feel like you're in something that's gonna like fall apart. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for me for the vehicle. Let's see how many minutes we got left. I don't know how long this thing is recording, but I'm just gonna keep talking, and hopefully this thing is still recording. So yeah, it's hard to really like floor it when I'm coming back from work and I don't have any real open road in front of me, because I'm like stuck in traffic all the way through. But I think one of the cool things about the car is how special you feel, because now I'm a part of the BMW community, which I didn't realize how big that community was of car people who just, they know a lot about their BMWs, and when they see me, even if it's like a 3 Series or whatever, they know what I have and I know what they have, and I respect them because I understand that, they want a certain type of driving experience, and you really do get a hell of a driving experience out of the BMW. You really get this feeling of, this is a really sporty ride, I think that one of the biggest surprises is that this car looks very modern still. Even though it was a 2010, it doesn't look like it's outdated. I feel like there's certain luxuries that I don't have. Like, I don't have like a massaging chair. I don't have like ventilated seats. This is something that I wish I did have in this car, because that's something that my wife had in her Explorer. That was nice. That was really nice. But everything in here feels so well built. My first German car, so there's a lot of quirks to driving it. Things are just different. The way the buttons work, the way that some things are laid out, it's definitely a little different than what you may be accustomed to if you were riding around in something like an American car, like a Ford or a Dodge or something like that. Because I feel like those cars try to stay similar to each other, not too foreign, but these are definitely different. My wife has a Mercedes now, and that just, honestly, for me, that car kind of whoops my mind every time I drive it because the buttons are like flipped, they're reversed. This car does have like paddle shifters, and the actual shifters are actually on the steering wheel, which is one thing I liked more about this car than the Cayenne too, is that the Cayenne had like these little buttons, you know, and I was like, I don't want to push buttons if I wanted to shift, you know, gears here. It being such a big vehicle, I'm totally cool with the transmission being automatic. I don't wish this was a manual at all, but I do wish I had a smaller vehicle for like just having a little bit more fun with, that I don't have to worry about the weight. And I kind of treat this car like this is gonna be my daily drive. It's fun, and it's definitely gonna hold me over until I get like a real sports car. When I get that next sports car, which I'm thinking about maybe being an M3 right now, like an E92 M3, something like a hardtop convertible manual, that's definitely going to be, you know, one of those cars where I'm pushing more and I'm having a little bit more of a pushing it to the limit more, I guess. Just leaving it at that. We'll just push it to the limit more. I won't necessarily care so much about maintaining it past this time. Although I will take care of the vehicle. What I mean is just, I'm just going to push the fuck out of it. When I get to this intersection, I'm gonna floor it and see if I can pick up what the exhaust note sounds like in the back. I don't even know if the video is still recording because I've been driving for like 20 minutes, and I know the recorder sometimes stops when it gets to a limit. Wow, they're really clearing that out. That is no joke. Okay, let's put this thing in M mode. So it's in M mode now. You can almost immediately hear the valves open up in the back with the exhaust. I'm gonna let this car turn. Put it in sport mode. Let's go. There we go. That's dope. I love that. One thing I hate about this car is that the suspension can be rough all the time. I remember going over like speed bumps, simple holes that used to like not really be a big deal. Man, even little itty bitty bumps in this damn thing, it is a jolt. I mean, it will feel like somebody's hitting you in the mouth. It's not an enjoyable experience, and you definitely don't feel like you're in a luxury vehicle, which is why I feel like this is crazy how they did this to an SUV, where it really is like, I feel like I could track this. And I feel like I could take this to the autocross and just go. Now, I wouldn't do it because it's my daily, but I definitely feel like, you know, when I get to the point where I have another vehicle, I probably would consider doing it because I think it would be a lot of fun. This car just tempts you to go. This car just makes you want to floor it. It makes you want to push it. Squeaky brakes and all because of the racing brakes or whatever. I mean, this car just makes you, it makes you feel like nobody can like, pardon my language, but that's really how you feel when you have this thing engaged in the right mode. I like cruising through my neighborhood in second gear around like 3,000 RPM because I get that when I let off the throttle. It gives this nice little burble type of a sound that makes people turn their heads because they're like, whoa, that car sounds like that? That car makes that sound? Yeah, it does. It really does. And that's why I love driving my BMW X5M, because it's a sleeper, but it will beat the out of a typical performance car.